Hi, everyone. This is Amelia Duran, Porthole to Justice. And sorry about that. I have been having technical difficulties with my equipment, and I may have had a couple lives that went out, and I'm not sure if they went out on Facebook or not, but just ignore them. It is July 27th. And this is the Porthole to Justice, Amelia Duran. And I have with me today a very special guest. Her name is Merissa Hamilton. And I think she's kind of great because I just really admire her whole approach and her whole campaign. And what she's doing is kind of unique. And I'm so grateful for you coming on the Porthole to Justice. Merissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Amelia. Thank you for having me. I mean, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So, yeah, I just hope that this is working. And my equipment's been acting really funny, and I apologize. So, yeah, you know, I've been friends with you on Facebook for a few years now, and you've been, running this campaign with the Libertarian Party, and I've been following your progress, and I was actually following your protest that day in Arizona because I will often tune into what, everybody's doing in the movement as far as, the parental rights and the corruption, and I watched you get arrested.
Yes.
at the rally, and the police actually arrested you and another woman that was with you.
My grandmother.
Yeah. So I want to ask you all about that first because you went on the news.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we actually went nationwide on the news, and on social media we went international overnight. And I came out of jail and I was shocked. I had no idea how far it went, and I saw people with my Facebook picture as their profile, and I was like, "What happened?" It was awesome. I was so excited and so happy for all the support, and thankful for all the support and love that everyone gave me for that. Essentially, what happened is we set up a protest to stand against the abuse and corruption of DCS against our children and our families. Pastor Reverend Maupin sent out a press release, and the police went and blocked the road for us to do the protest. For the record, we didn't get a permit, but the police went and voluntarily blocked the road anyway. And then as soon as they saw the people that I had set up to speak to the media, they shut down the protest, and they ordered us off the road that they had blocked for us. And at that time, I had to make a split decision as to if I was going to comply or not. And I am sick and tired of the judges and the courts gag ordering parents, retaliating against children for standing up for their rights. And at the same time, I am running for governor, and I wanted to find out what's happening in our jails. I hadn't made an announcement. We didn't include it in the press release, so it was an opportunity for me to kind of go incognito and see exactly what's happening in our justice system. And find out that there's a lot of abuses that we have in Arizona against our Bill of Rights that's happening in the jails today. And so it was overall, it was a very insightful experience. And I guess that's I did a live stream afterwards talking about all the abuses and the horrible treatment that they do at the Arizona 4th Avenue jail. And now there's some changes that we have to make.
Yeah, so you have this like really tenacious sort of spirit about you that I really admire. You're like, I'm gonna just go for it, go see hands-on what it's like to go through this process, and you just really had a really, I liked it, and I love your live feeds, and you're running so your platform is. You want to explain exactly what your platform is that you're running on for? Yeah, because go ahead.
I haven't actually published my platform, but I know for sure that one of the main platform pieces is going to be abolishing DCS. And for people that don't know, that Child Protective Services in Arizona, we have one of the most egregious Child Protective Service agencies in the entire nation. Our DCS department here is absolutely ruthless. Even when children stand up for their rights to stay with their parents, the state will go and kidnap their siblings and retaliate against them. They'll abuse them. They'll put them in pedophile rings. They adopted out one child to a woman that burned her 80%
there was one
of her body.
Case, yeah, really, really awful case, egregious case out there in Arizona that I actually covered in the Porthole to Justice about a little girl that she was actually burned on, like, I guess she was in a foster home, placed in a foster home, taken from her mother. Is that the same case?
Yeah, so what happened to baby Devaney, her mother is named Michelle, and she was featured in the Arizona Republic twice, right before we did the protest. She actually drove up for the protest. She was one of the mothers I was having featured at the protest that I wanted to speak to the media to learn more about her story and what happened to her child. She was in a domestic violence situation with her husband and was in the process of separating from him. And the state, there was an argument that had happened, and the state got involved and took the child. The child hadn't been harmed. The child was safe and fine. The state then proceeded to put the baby into a pedophile ring that the FBI had to break up. And that during that time, the mother had been saying, when she'd get the visitations with her daughter, that there was something wrong. She was saying when she was 2, I believe, and the mother kept saying there was something wrong. She kept getting urinary tract infections and like bacterial and yeast infections, things that no baby should be getting. Mm-hmm. She started developing this horrible paranoia towards men, and she would have these horrible fits of crying when she would leave her mother, things that are just unnatural sadness, like sheer and terror. Mm-hmm. And when the mother reported it and reported it to the police, DCS then retaliated against her and had her rights terminated, saying that she was creating an unnatural fear in her daughter against men, when it was really DCS putting her in a pedophile ring that created that.
So, and the FBI actually broke up this pedophile ring. Where is she? Where is? I'm sorry. What was her name? Devenia.
Devaney.
Yeah, Devaney.
So then DCS took Devaney and put her in another foster care group home where they slammed her against the wall and gave her a concussion. And then after that, they took her and they gave her to a woman that basically boiled her alive. The water was scalding hot, and kept her in there for 20-30 minutes, burned 80% of her body. When the police came, they said that there was, she almost died. So much of her body had been burned that her skin had fallen off, and there was blood everywhere.
Oh my God.
From there, they then took her, and the natural mother, Michelle, found out what happened and tried to go to the hospital to visit her daughter. They said her rights had been terminated, so they wouldn't let her. Devaney was calling out for her mother, and they would not let her see her. In the meantime, the woman that burned her does have visitation in jail with her children.
She had visitation in jail with her children, yet Devenia couldn't have visitation with her mother in the hospital.
Yes, and then after that, once they discovered that we had figured out where she was, then I was told that they moved her to California or some other location, and then DCS set their trolls to go on social media saying that she's doing fine and blah blah blah, and now whoever her guardian is now is suing the state for the damage that has been done to this child.
They're basically moving her around so that she can't be reunited with her mother, because they don't want any kind of, it's a liability if they put her back with her mother, right?
Well, it's not necessarily a liability, because right now, I mean, they've cut off this child's toes. All the liability has gone out the door. The issue now is that this child is worth so much money to the state. The medical bills, she'll be on medication for a very long time to recover from what she's been through. She's going to need services until she turns 18. So she has become a hot commodity for the state, and has the state's going to get a lot of money from the federal government for this child. And so they will most likely do, based on the experience of what I've seen with other children, they will do whatever it takes to keep her sick. She will age out of the foster care system. She has an 80% failure rate at this point in time, based on statistics.
Oh my gosh. And this is, folks, this is not an isolated incident. This is happening across the country. And the Child Protective Services have become like a safe haven for these pedophile rings and crimes. And oftentimes these children are placed in more harmful situations. In fact, children have a 60% more chance of being abused in foster care than they do than just staying in their biological homes and having an open CPS investigation in the home. But this often is not done because there's more money. These children are worth more money when they're placed in state care.
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
And so when you were hosting this rally, you had obtained permits and you had guest speakers.
I have to correct that. I was not the one that was hosting the rally. Reverend Pastor Maupin he is the one that called the rally, and he is the one that was hosting it. He is the one that sent out the press release. He did not get permits as far as I know, but the city accommodated him nonetheless. I did make arrangements for the Shores family, for Tabitha, and for Michelle to come up.
Okay. So we know that this is not an isolated incident, but we know that the issue in Arizona is probably one of the most egregious states as far in the nation as far as CPS corruption goes. What is the current status, and what is your take on DCFS currently in the state of Arizona?
Well, so what some of our investigators have found is that DCS is actually a private organization. They have a contract with Arizona. I think it's until 2024 or 2025. I don't recall exactly, but you can look it up. The status is that we did pass some legislation that doesn't go into effect until January. That legislation will now restrict the state from being able to use the voice stress test, which is kind of like a polygraph, against parents in court unless the parents consent to taking the test. So they can no longer force the parent to take it, and they can no longer use it as evidence to terminate their rights. But the caveat is that parents have to stand up for their rights and not fall under their coercion. Mm-hmm. Then the other part of the law is that it would require warrants or orders of protection, court orders. For the state has to get a court order unless the situation is exigent to the point that in the time it takes to get a court order, that child would be in serious harm or death.
So when do the court orders or the warrants go in effect for Arizona? When does that actually...
Not until January 1st of 2018.
Wow, and that's a while. And
yes.
In the meantime, Arizona, the removal rate of children in Arizona, what is the statistics? Because I know that it's one of the highest in the nation.
Yeah, it's been a little bit difficult to pinpoint it. The state does have reporting they have on their website as to what the removal rate is. They say that they reunify 50% of the kids that they take, but I honestly don't trust those numbers because what we're finding is that they have been changing the definitions as to what these benchmarks are. So, for example, I was told by someone that's an insider in the Attorney General's office that the numbers that report for children that die in state care, that they actually have changed the definition of state care to mean that they actually have to be like with a DCS or state employee. If they're in a foster group home, it's not considered as dying in state care. So it's really difficult to pinpoint the numbers to say what the rate is. What we do know is that the state is very aggressive, and they take somewhere between 13 and 20,000 kids a year, roughly, if you look at the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's probably, I think, one of the more aggressive state when it comes to removing children. The rates there, I know the last time I looked, and I thought it was like 60%. And that is conservative. That the last time I looked. So you've like really got involved with advocating, and I've kind of watched the evolution of your campaign, and when this all went down with the rally that you were attending, you went through the whole. See, I was falsely arrested myself, so and I wasn't just kept like or detained. I was transferred to a women's detention center with no charges ever made against me. Like, I till this day, there was no charges ever made against me. But it is bad. Like, I had no idea. I mean, it is such a, like, really cruel and just dehumanizing experience. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and so you were really describing some of the things, and you hadn't been charged with a crime either at this point, and you were describing some of the conditions there in Arizona really well. Yes.
So we did a live stream afterwards, and I went into detail. I can tell you the highlights of it, though. Essentially, the worst part was the third. They transported us to 3 different places. The first officers that arrested us, they did their job. They did them well. They respected our rights. They didn't try to coerce us into violating our rights or anything like that. They handled us very, very properly. I would even go to the extent to say they were gentlemen. And then once we were in there and they were going through the booking process to determine what they were going to charge us with and whatnot, they gave us water. They were very courteous. They made a funny comment saying that they were basically, like, they had that the reason why they arrested us for protesting was because they wanted to dissuade us, that's the quote, dissuade us from doing that again. And I said, is that just for us for protesting or in general? And they said, no, in general, we want to dissuade people from
even though you had acquired permits, correct?
No, we had not acquired permits. But if anyone is from Arizona and knows the Reverend Maupin, he doesn't need permits. He's very infamous in Arizona, and the police had already made arrangements with him that they would block the road.
Oh, okay.
Like the protest we did a few weeks after that was in Mesa. They blocked off 5 blocks of road, and they had a helicopter live streaming us as we did the protest.
Wow.
So, no, it was not. You don't need permits when you're protesting with Reverend Maupin because he's a regular. Mm-hmm. But once the city saw who we had speaking, they decided to shut it down, and that was not the agreement that was made.
Who did you have speaking?
We had Tabitha Shores from the Shores family. Her children had just filed a lawsuit against the state a few days before the protest, suing them for terminating the rights of their parents. We also had...
We covered the Shores family removal in the Porthole to Justice as well. For some of the listeners, the Shores family, they had the police come into their home and do an illegal removal of their baby, which everybody in the Porthole to Justice watched occur. They documented very well. So, and I think everybody that listens to the show knows who the Shores family is. So.
Yep, and that was out of retaliation for the children suing the government for terminating their parents' rights.
Okay. So they had the Shores family there as one of the speakers, yourself.
Yep, I had also Michelle, baby Devaney's mom, there. Beth, the grandmother that got arrested with me, was actually the driver that worked for the service organization for DCS and drove baby Devaney back and forth. She's the one that got arrested with me. We had 2 former foster kids there that are now adults, And one of them had a baby, and the state is in the process of trying to terminate her rights. They're saying that she's literally, quote, too retarded to be a mother because she grew up in foster care, and therefore she has no way of knowing how to parent a child.
So she's not intelligent. So they've deemed her not intelligent enough, and she's already been awarded the state. So they basically view her as property and her children as property as well, is what you're telling me.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Wow.
And Reverend Maupin was there to stand up for the thing that spurred him to do the protest. I had been talking about the DCS issue for a couple of months, and he had just kind of been invested. She had brought her children to the hospital because her 9-year-old broke her arm. I think she has a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 8-year-old. I don't completely remember the ages, but anyway, she brought the 9-year-old to the hospital. She was tired and hungry, waiting in the waiting room. There was a security guard there. She asked the security guard if he would watch the child while she went to go get food. And the security guard said, yes, that's fine. Well, there was a social worker there. And then when the nurse came out to call her, she was getting the food. And 2 days later, they took all 3 of her children from her. Even though the security guard vouched for her and said, no, I was watching them. They are fine.
You know, I've had on Cheyenne McQueen on the show, who I advocated on her case, and she's one of the few foster children that has gotten her 3 babies back. That I know of, and it was a hard journey. I mean, it was a really rough road, and we fought really, really hard. But they do this, and they view these children not even as human beings. They're property, they're a commodity, and this has to stop. And I support you 100%, Merissa. You have been so courageous, and you're being so vocal, and you're very well informed on the issues. And I can't think of anybody else that is more, fit for this job, because you showed that you're willing to go in and get to the root of the issues. You're willing to be tenacious, experience the problems, and you are all for gun rights as well, which I love.
Yes, I am. That is a true statement.
So, I mean, and she's beautiful too, folks. She's not hard on the eyes, I gotta say.
Thank you. And I wore a taxationist death dress when I got arrested.
No, did you really?
I did. Yeah, it was a little hard to see in print, but yes, my dress said taxationist death. So as I went from jail to jail, every person saw my taxationist death dress, and of course I'd have a discussion with the police on it, and most of them said, yeah, absolutely, taxation is theft, even though it pays their salaries. And then the interesting thing is, then in the third jail that we were in, that was the worst. That was where they had, it was horrendous and disgusting and totally dehumanizing. They break people in that, and they break them on purpose. Mm-hmm. But every room I went in, they do what's called a horseshoe, and so they move you from room to room to room, so that you don't actually start talking amongst each other and like educating each other on rights and whatnot and things like that. So what I did is I was there to find out what was happening in our system, and so I went and I interviewed just about every single girl that I was in there with, and each room had between 10 and 20 girls. And so I started asking them about why they were there, what their background was, what brought them to this point, have they been in jail before, what are the conditions of the other jails, what happened to them in this process, teaching them about the Constitution, about the Bill of Rights, about liberty in general, talking to them about diversion programs to help them so that they don't have to go back to a horrible jail, but they could probably try to, do something to change their life and get out of this cycle. And they started noticing that. Uh-huh. And so they started trying to separate me and Beth from each other. They started trying to create confusion. And what happened is the girls caught on quickly to this. And they then started kind of like keeping everyone informed as to where we were at and what was going on. And by the time I was in the last room, there was me with a semicircle of ladies around me, and we were having a discussion about regulations and government and victimless crimes and liberty, and what their rights were and how to break the cycle of what they were going through of being in jail, and how to get out of it and change their lives.
Wow, that's so great. So have you kept in touch with anybody that you met in there?
There's one girl that did reach out to me for help. We've been trying to find her some housing, but it's been a little complicated because it's her sister, and her sister's kids. I think there's like 6 of them that need to have some housing, and it's hard for us to get back in touch with each other. There's 3 other girls that I've been looking for, trying to figure out where they are, but I don't have experience working through the justice system, so it's been hard for me to figure it out. But I have gotten in touch with an organization in Tucson, which is a diversion program for women that have had substance abuse issues. And what they actually do is they counter CPS by allowing the mothers to go to their facility with her children and then be able to rehabilitate together.
Oh, together?
Yes, together.
Oh, that's okay. That's great. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't even ask you at the beginning of the interview. I apologize. I digress. I didn't even ask you your background.
So I have been, I've been working in the community for over a decade, mostly in the area of crisis pregnancy and helping women out of domestic violence situations. And then from one of the crisis pregnancy situations I was working on, which is Save Braylon's Family, that brought me into finding out about what the DCS movement is. In my professional life, though, I'm a technology executive for a small company in Boston.
Awesome. So when you say you're a technology specialist, what area of technology exactly do you specialize in?
So basically we provide software and services in the area of master data management for the retail, CPG, food service industries, and also healthcare. So pretty much all the product information that you see, like on e-commerce, on websites, all the product data that hospitals use and things like that, all of that information goes through the system that my company manages globally.
Globally. So you're used to managing really large operations and going in and working with a lot of different types of people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My company is responsible for building the strategies of some of the largest companies in the world globally. And we have business, I think, in 7 countries now. We have offices. And so, yeah, negotiating large contracts is what I do on a regular basis. It's funny because I was at a very large customer in Seattle a couple of months ago, and I was with the owner of the company, and we were renegotiating a contract with our largest customer, and he said something to me, "Thanks for that. I know that was tough to get through." And I laughed. And he said, "Why do you laugh?" And it was like, "Well, because tomorrow I'm negotiating the release of a baby in Las Vegas." And he said, "What?" And he didn't know what I do for my community work. And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to Nevada to negotiate the release of baby Naya for the shores." And he said, I don't understand. Is the baby a hostage? And I said, yeah, essentially.
Yeah, these are really like hostage situations with these babies, and these parents are tormented, and they're basically extorted for everything that they have, not just monetary, but just on so many different levels. And I can't imagine, like, I think doing advocacy work is like the best work to prepare yourself for going into the pit, if you will.
Of government, yes.
Huh?
Yeah, instead of going into the pit of government, yes, that is true. That is a true statement.
Yeah. So, well, gosh, I mean, I've been wanting to have you on the show for a while, and I want to invite you to come back on when, of course, but
I'd love to.
Yeah, does any of the listeners have any questions for Merissa? We have a listener tuning in on the chat board. Hi, Elijah. Thank you for tuning into the show. Oh my gosh. You made it to a live show. You've made it. So, yeah, I apologize. It's like just this last I suddenly had this huge increase of listeners, and going live.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and going live has become a little bit more complicated for me. So, this is just a trial run. We're going to have Merissa back on. So, we're definitely going to be promoting you for governor in Arizona.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about the run. Arizona definitely needs some new leadership. What's really important, though, in the short term is that we have someone that's a strong candidate to be able to challenge Governor Ducey when the new law, SB 1003, is supposed to take effect. And that's the bill that's to have the court orders so that the state can't keep seizing children in non-exigent circumstances. And, and that's the first goal. The first goal is that we have to overcome that and make sure that bill gets properly put in place. We've already started working with our local police departments to change the policy and to make sure that their legal departments are making sure that they're properly training them. The interesting thing is that most of our police don't know that they have more power than DCS. They think that because DCS tells them to take a kid, they have to. They don't know how to read an order to make sure that it's actually a legal order. They don't know how to investigate a home. In fact, they think it's not their job to investigate the circumstance to see that the child is in exigency or a non-exigent circumstance. And so these are the things that we're working with them on. We've also are working with some of our local city council because they have authority over the police departments. And so we're really getting at the root of the issue. So regardless of what the governor does in January, we will have some of our local cities and our local police departments ready to start actually following the law and obeying the Constitution.
You're working hands-on with the police department, and you're educating them how to properly read an order from the Department of Social Services and make sure that it's a legal order.
Correct.
You're actually doing that.
Well, we haven't done it just yet. We're negotiating with them on it. We just started the conversations in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, because I can't tell you how common it is that often police will, escort a child protective service worker into the home, but yet they won't actually read the paperwork, and these children are removed oftentimes with an order that's not even signed by a judge. Not even properly stamped. And
that's correct.
Yeah.
And what they should be doing is that when they, even with all of those things in place, if they go in there and they see that the information that's on the order is falsified, like for example, it's not an exigent circumstance, then they should be calling their supervisors to say that these children are not in an exigent circumstance. They should not be seen.
So, Merissa, you're kicking off your campaign. You've been on the news, with reporting about this arrest. What channel were you on? I posted it to the forum.
I was on the Arizona Family. I was on what else? I think Channel 3 here locally. I was in the Arizona Republic. I just saw that I was in a website that's associated with USA Today. That's a national news organization. It went pretty far and wide.
It's a huge deal for a gubernatorial candidate to actually get arrested at what was like a civil rights rally, you would call it, for parents, for children and families. So where do people go if they want to contribute to your campaign? Where can they go to do so?
Sure. Thanks for that. They can go to MerissaHamilton.com. Merissa is spelled with an E, Merissa. And right now we're doing a $5 clean money bomb. And what that means is that it's basically to boycott clean money. So in the state of Arizona and really around the nation, politicians can run on a fund called Clean Money. That money is actually money that's taken from people that are for traffic tickets, for fines, for people that go to jail for victimless crimes. These are things that really are destroying people's lives. And that money then is used to fund our politicians. And so we're boycotting that because if you are ushering in a new political class of people on the backs of the most oppressed and the economically disadvantaged, and people that are having their kids taken from them, and people that are going to jail for victimless crimes. And of course, when they get into office, they're going to create more laws that allow the state to steal your kids more, that allow them to put you in jail for things that are not acts where a victim exists. Mm-hmm. And so that's one way to fight this. It starts at the base level. So I encourage people to go to MerissaHamilton.com, donate $5 to my campaign instead of Clean Money, and make a statement out to the establishment that you are no longer going to stand for their dark money and their dirty money.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, just so much information, coming from you, and it's absolutely fabulous. And I want to learn more about it, but we're running out of time. I want to learn more about the clean money and more of the corruption that you've been highlighting. So I hope you come back on the Porthole to Justice again during the campaign, and we will keep promoting you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I would love to be back on.
So it's MerissaHamilton.com.
Yes.
And Merissa is a gubernatorial candidate out in Arizona, and she's running for governor. And folks, she's going to need all the money she can get because she's going to need a lot of support because this is a grassroots effort. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I've had a good time being able to educate your listeners and learn more about what's happening around our nation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will be looking forward to having you on again. Thanks so much, folks. This has been another episode of Off the Cuff, like really off the cuff, because I didn't do my regular introduction. But, yeah, thank you, Elijah, for tuning in. And it is July 27th. You can subscribe to us on Spreaker.com. Hi, Brenda. Oh, you just made it. Yeah, thanks for posting because it's nice to know that you guys are there. You can subscribe to the show on Spreaker.com, and you can interact with us on our chat board. I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Facebook. All right, and go to MerissaHamilton.com so you can contribute $5. All right, guys, thanks so much. Bye-bye.